Red Bull just confirmed that Verstappen's RB21 is getting a massive performance unlock for Abu Dhabi. Mekies revealed they've activated a hidden setup window that changes everything we thought we knew about the car's limits. Telemetry shows the RB21 found over 3/10 in Sector 3 alone, and the simulation numbers are blowing the paddock away. Subscribe now, because if this upgrade holds, Verstappen isn't just back, he's about to end the season with a knockout. Red Bull came into Abu Dhabi facing its most pressured Friday in months. McLaren had seized control of both practice sessions, and Verstappen found himself trailing by nearly 3/10. But late on Friday evening, team principal Laurent Mekies made it official. The RB21 has received a targeted performance upgrade, one not visible to the eye, but fundamental in unlocking hidden pace that had eluded them since the last major floor revision. What looked like a deficit may now become a last-minute advantage. The upgrade isn't a new part bolted onto the car. It's an internal evolution: refined damper tuning, updated rear geometry parameters, and an altered energy deployment calibration that, combined, shift the RB21 into a more aggressive aero operating window. Mekies described it not as a fix, but as an activation, revealing a layer of performance that struggled to reach all season on tracks with long radius corners like Yas Marina. The changes were mapped in the simulator earlier this week, but Friday's data finally confirmed they work on track. During FP1, Verstappen was visibly unhappy. The RB21 understeered heavily through the final sector, and his throttle trace showed multiple hesitation points, especially through turns 12 to 15. But the engineers saw a different story: consistent rear ride height, low longitudinal oscillation, and improved lateral stability on corner exit. What they realized was that the baseline was working, but Verstappen's style had not yet synced with the new car behavior. By FP2, that alignment began. Sector times dropped. Mid-corner speed rose. And confidence returned. Mekies noted that the car's vertical stiffness profile had been slightly recalibrated, allowing better platform control under combined load, essential for Abu Dhabi's braking zones. This allows Verstappen to rotate the car sooner and get on throttle earlier. It's not about straight-line speed, it's about planting the rear early without compromising tire wear. Engineers highlighted that for the first time in weeks, the balance correction on corner exit was under 3%, an internal benchmark for full driver trust. Verstappen hit that number on 3 consecutive laps late in FP2. Telemetry comparison between FP1 and FP2 revealed a gain of 0.327 seconds in Sector 3 alone, without any change in power mode. That delta came from throttle application and load stability, not engine output. Red Bull has often hidden true pace on Fridays, but in this case, the team didn't change fuel or mapping. The performance came strictly from mechanical and aerodynamic balance. For Verstappen, this means he can push deeper into the braking zones without triggering rear-end instability, giving him the aggressive corner entry he needs to attack McLaren's pace. Importantly, the upgrade was not expected to deliver gains until qualifying. But what Red Bull saw in the final 10 minutes of FP2 changed that. Verstappen went purple in microsectors across turns 5, 7, and 9, not on a push lap, but during a cooldown pass with scrubbed tires. That triggered a full overnight review of ride height, floor stall behavior, and ERS delivery strategy for Saturday. According to sources inside the garage, the team believes it has unlocked the full behavior profile they designed around, but had only glimpsed in Japan and Hungary earlier this year. Now, Verstappen has more than just confidence, he has margin. And heading into Saturday, that changes the dynamic completely. What started as a deficit could now swing into a dominance narrative, especially if McLaren is unable to adapt. With the RB21 operating in its optimal balance window, Red Bull no longer needs to chase raw speed. They can now control the race from setup, tire life, and track position. And in Verstappen's hands, that could be more dangerous than outright lap time. In FP1, Verstappen ended up P2 with a time of 1 minute, 24 seconds, and 793 thousandths, just over 3/10 behind Lando Norris, who topped the session. But the lap time didn't tell the whole story. Verstappen's pace came in 2 isolated sectors: Sector 1, where straight-line power matters, and Sector 2, where braking efficiency shines. But in Sector 3, the twisty, traction-sensitive part of Yas Marina, the RB21 lost over 2/10 alone. It wasn't a matter of speed, it was balance. The rear simply wouldn't hold under rotation, forcing Verstappen to short shift and delay throttle pickup. Red Bull responded between sessions with a full platform correction. Engineers reduced front wing angle, modified damper rebound, and adjusted rake to push the car into a more stable aero range. Verstappen's first run in FP2 showed immediate signs of improvement. Although not on a quali simulation, he went purple in many sectors through turns 9 and 11. His time? 1 minute, 23 seconds and 493 thousandths, still behind Norris, but nearly 4/10ths faster than his own FP1 effort. More importantly, the car responded the same way on consecutive laps, indicating consistency, not a fluke lap. The soft tire run in FP2 exposed more about Red Bull's strategy. Verstappen completed a 4-lap run on the C5 compound, mimicking Q2 conditions. His degradation curve remained flat across the first 3 laps, hovering in the low 1 minute 23s, with only a minor drop into the 1 minute 24s on lap 4. Compared to McLaren, who showed sharper initial pace but quicker tire fall-off, Red Bull looked less aggressive but more sustainable. That's crucial for Sunday, where tire longevity could decide track position during extended stints on high-degradation tarmac. During long-run simulations on the medium tire, Verstappen maintained consistent pace in the high 1 minute 29s, dipping into the 1 minute 28s only briefly before stabilizing. His lap times were less volatile than those of Leclerc and Piastri, both of whom showed lap-to-lap deltas of over 6/10ths. Verstappen's delta across 7 consecutive laps? Just under 3/10ths. It's a sign that the new setup is not only delivering peak pace but doing so without compromising tire stability, a balance Red Bull struggled to find at tracks like Singapore and Austin earlier in the year. Radio communications gave further insight into Verstappen's growing confidence. Early in FP1, he described the car as unstable under braking and snappy mid-corner, particularly through turns 12 and 14. But by FP2, the tone changed. Much better on entry. "I can commit more now," Verstappen said on lap 10 of his long-run stint. The team acknowledged the change immediately, telling him to stay on current balance and manage tire surface temp only. It was the first time in 3 race weekends that Verstappen gave a green light radio cue for engineers to lock in setup direction. While McLaren continued to push for outright speed, Red Bull focused on setup repeatability and thermal balance. Norris topped both sessions, but his long-run data showed higher tire core temperatures and greater degradation in the left rear, likely due to aggressive rotation in tight corner exits. Verstappen, meanwhile, showed minimal left rear delta, keeping both rear tires in the same thermal window, a direct consequence of improved damper behavior and controlled floor stall. These are the invisible advantages that matter over race distance, especially in Abu Dhabi, where rear grip often fades by lap 15. By the end of FP2, Verstappen's pace wasn't just close to Norris, it was within a strike zone. And the way Red Bull got there matters more than the raw numbers. They didn't change the engine, the fuel load, or the driving style. They changed how the car connects with the track. With just 1 night before qualifying, they now have a baseline that both preserves tires and allows Verstappen to push through all 3 sectors. That is the scenario Red Bull was hoping to find, and it could be the foundation of a race-winning performance on Sunday. At the heart of Red Bull's performance upgrade in Abu Dhabi lies a subtle but crucial recalibration of how the RB21 manages vertical loads across its suspension system. The team didn't introduce new hardware, instead, they refined the interaction between rear damping rates and chassis pitch control. For weeks, the RB21 struggled on circuits with off-camber exits and long traction zones. But by shifting the damping rebound curve and retuning the heave stiffness, Red Bull managed to stabilize the rear-end platform without compromising low-speed rotation. It's the type of engineering evolution that doesn't appear in photos but redefines the car's behavior in the most critical moments. The biggest change was how the car handled combined loads. Abu Dhabi's layout demands a platform that remains stable under both longitudinal braking and lateral cornering force, especially in the middle sector. Previously, Verstappen was forced to modulate brake and throttle to manage instability mid-corner. But with this new setup, he's able to apply trail braking deeper into the apex and transition into throttle without upsetting the car's balance. That allowed him to carry more minimum speed through turns 11 and 14, both key exit zones that lead into high-speed stretches. Another key area was floor stall management. Red Bull had been struggling with inconsistencies in airflow reattachment under certain ride height thresholds. In Abu Dhabi, they implemented a new floor sealing strategy that retained aerodynamic load even as the car compressed during braking. Engineers adjusted the static ride height by millimeters not visible externally, but enough to alter how the floor behaves dynamically. The result was less porpoising, more predictable downforce under load, and a more stable aerodynamic center of pressure. That gave Verstappen greater freedom to attack braking zones aggressively. Torque mapping was also rebalanced. In previous races, the RB21's power unit deployment was overly conservative in third gear exits, limiting traction but preserving tire life. This weekend, Red Bull implemented a more progressive torque delivery curve, particularly in the mid-rev range. That gave Verstappen a cleaner throttle feel on corner exits, allowing earlier acceleration without triggering wheel spin. Combined with the improved rear damping behavior, it created a car that felt planted yet reactive, exactly what Verstappen needs to fully exploit his natural driving style. Thermal balance was another area of improvement. With the updated setup, Red Bull managed to equalize tire surface and carcass temperatures across all four wheels. This prevented overheating in the left rear, which had been a recurring problem at similar circuits earlier in the year. The result was a flatter degradation curve and more consistent feedback over longer stints. Verstappen could push harder into his race runs without worrying about the rear tires fading after 6 or 7 laps. That predictability is vital, especially in a night race where ambient conditions shift rapidly between sessions. What makes this upgrade so important is that it allows Red Bull to go back to controlling races through pace and strategy, not just tire offset. Earlier in the season, they relied on undercuts and alternative compounds to gain track position. But with this new balance window, Verstappen can fight directly on merit during qualifying, secure track position, and dictate the race tempo from the front. It gives the team more tactical freedom and Verstappen the confidence to drive flat out without compensating for instability. Technically, this evolution brings the RB21 closer to the dominant behavior of last year's RB19. It's not about sheer downforce numbers, it's about extracting consistent performance across fuel loads, tire compounds, and corner types. Mekies and the Red Bull engineering team didn't just find a setup, they finally reactivated the DNA of a championship-winning car. And as long as conditions stay stable into Saturday, Verstappen will have the tools to fight not just for pole but for one final, dominant win to close the season.